Hey guys, this is my Outlander book review on Melissa Elise TV, so stay tuned. What's up everyone, I'm Melissa Elise and you're watching Melissa Elise TV. Welcome to week 2 of book club. I don't have any quick thoughts, so let's jump right in. This week we read chapters 12 through 25, bringing us more than halfway through book 1. And the only thing I have to say about the plot this week is more of a critique on the length of the chapters. In general, they are pretty long, so it's definitely a lot of book to get through. I really only have a bone to pick with chapter 24. It is the longest chapter in the book thus far, and it's spread over weeks of Jamie and Claire back at Castle Leoch, just basically doing life. I won't say that it's all expository, even though a lot of it is. There is one gem right in the middle that I loved, which was the encounter between Claire and old Alec. Claire is set up as the castle's doctor, and Alec comes to see her for his rheumatism. And as she massages his aching body, he tells her about Jamie's parents' elopement. This is only a small piece of that chapter, but I was really glad to have it, and I enjoyed old Alec and Claire's exchange. It really softened Alec's character. Speaking of softened characters, a primary character in my mind this week was Dougal. His physical description and the character traits that play out in his actions are both powerful and strong. His height and voice alone command attention. And to top it all off, he's got the Mackenzie good looks. He's as good-humored as he is fierce and intimidating, and though you get the feeling that you should be afraid of him, you also just know that he's a big teddy bear. His relationship with Jamie is complicated to say the least. There's the family bond, as Dougal is Jamie's uncle, and you know Jamie looks up to him as he has taught Jamie to fight, and he's taken care of Jamie as best as he could. Jamie lived with Dougal for 2 years, but there's also this slight suspicion that Dougal might have tried to kill him at one point. More complicated still is the relationship Diana draws between Colum and Dougal. It comes up multiple times where Colum is described as the brains and the leader, but because of his condition, Dougal is the legs or body and the war chieftain. And Dougal, for the most part, doesn't seem to mind. In most things, he does represent Colum's will, but there are certain things that he's willing to risk for his own personal convictions. Like when Ellen is presumed taken by Malcolm Grant, Dougal just takes off after them, doesn't take backup, doesn't consult Colum, and certainly with his endeavors to raise money for the Rising. He's got his own political ambitions, but he's still subject to Colum, and he's not so much willing to risk his position. He's a complicated man, and I love him. So it's hard not to compare the book to the show. And for those that read the book first, I'm sure it's just as hard not to compare the show to the book. Thus far, I've really only found minor changes that the show has made, mainly in terms of when or how something happens. Of course, they cut some sections from the book or replace them with scenes that make more sense for the show. There's a lot of condensing of the long parts in the book to just one scene in the show. And I wouldn't even be talking about this if one of those parts wasn't my favorite passage thus far. It comes from chapter 22, Reckonings. So this is right after Jamie saves Claire from blackjack at Fort William, and he's had to teach her a lesson in obeying her husband and considering how her actions affect others. Following this lesson, their group has to depart for another village, but because Claire can't ride comfortably, she decides to walk and Jamie joins her. It's on this walk that Jamie shares with her some of the times that he'd been beaten for doing something wrong, and I absolutely loved how Claire understood what Jamie's intention was in doing so. And she says this: "As we walked, considering the stories he had told me, I couldn't help but admire the job he had done. Without one word of direct explanation or apology, he had given me the message he intended. I gave you justice, it said, as I was taught it, and I gave you mercy too, so far as I could. While I could not spare you pain and humiliation, I make you a gift of my own pains and humiliations, that yours might be easier to bear." For the most part, I really haven't had any issues with the changes the show has made, but man, I wish they had found a way to keep this entire chapter. That's it for this week's book club, but I'll ask you guys, what's one change that the show's made that you liked and one that you disliked? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out some of my others and subscribe for more.